94% of American millionaires say they live on less than they make. Not barely less, comfortably less, on purpose, for decades. Quick note, not financial advice, just a look at what the largest study of American millionaires ever conducted found they quietly refuse to spend money on, and why. Number 1, a new car with a loan attached to it. In that same research, 8 out of 10 millionaires said they buy their cars with cash and carry no car payment at all, and the average millionaire in the study drives a 4-year-old car with around 41,000 miles on it. A brand new car loses a meaningful chunk of its value the moment it leaves the lot, and financing that depreciation with interest on top means paying extra for a car that's already worth less than what's owed on it. It's not that millionaires never buy new cars, it's that buying one is a rare event, paid for outright, not a recurring monthly bill. Picture a showroom on a Saturday afternoon. The salesperson mentions the monthly payment before the total price, because the monthly number always sounds more reasonable than the number attached to it. A friend who bought new last year says it's worth it for the warranty and the smell of it. It's tempting to agree, standing there under the lights, running your hand along a hood that's never been touched by anyone else. The version of this decision that actually shows up in the data isn't the one made under the showroom lights. It's the one made a week later, in a driveway, deciding the old car has at least one more good year left in it. Number 2, right behind it, a luxury badge on the car at all. A separate 5-year study tracking 233 self-made millionaires found that 92% of them said they did not drive a luxury automobile and 97% had never leased a car in their lives. Instead, most bought their cars outright and drove them for a decade or more, replacing them only when the transmission or engine actually gave out. A car, to most of the people in that study, was a tool for getting somewhere. It wasn't a statement. Sit in the parking lot of almost any office building and you can pick out the least luxury sedan without trying. It's the one still getting hand-washed every weekend, the payment quietly due on the same day every month whether the car gets driven or not. Nobody in the meeting ever asks what's owed on it. That's kind of the point of buying one. Number 3, trading the car in every 2 or 3 years for a newer model. Over half the self-made millionaires in that same study had at some point purchased their car used, often a car coming off someone else's 2 or 3-year lease. The instinct to always drive something current is expensive in a very specific way. It means eating someone else's steepest depreciation hit over and over every few years, instead of letting one car quietly finish depreciating in your own driveway. Number 4, the timeshare. This one shows up again and again in the advice millionaire researchers give, specifically because of how the math works against the buyer. You pay a large sum up front for the right to visit a property you never actually own, and then the annual maintenance fees keep rising whether you use the week or not. Getting out of one later, if you change your mind, is famously difficult. It's marketed as owning a vacation. What you're actually purchasing is a recurring bill with a nice brochure. The pitch usually lands at the end of a genuinely great vacation, in a conference room with a view, after a free breakfast and a presentation that mentions locking in today's price more than once. Saying yes in that room feels like buying more of the week you're already having. The maintenance fee increase letter arrives 11 months later, addressed to an ordinary house on an ordinary Tuesday, and the vacation feeling has nothing left to do with it by then. Number 5, and this one shows up at nearly every checkout counter in the country: the extended warranty. Retailers push this one hard because it's close to pure profit for the store. The odds you'll actually need to use it are low, and when you do, the coverage is often narrower than it sounded on the sales floor. It's a purchase built entirely around a feeling of protection, rather than an honest calculation of what it's likely to save you, which is exactly the kind of purchase people who've actually built wealth tend to quietly skip. The cashier asks the question almost as reflex, barely looking up from the register, and saying no takes about half a second longer than saying yes. That half second of mild social friction is doing more work than it looks like. It's the entire reason the offer works often enough to be worth asking every single customer, all day, every day. Number 6, whole life insurance, bought as an investment rather than pure protection. The pitch sounds appealing, permanent coverage that builds cash value over time. But the fees embedded in these policies are significant, and the returns on the investment portion routinely lag far behind what the same money would have earned in a simple index fund. Term life insurance covers the actual risk for a fraction of the cost and leaves the rest of the money free to grow somewhere it isn't being quietly eaten by fees. An agent sits across from a new parent and frames it as one decision that handles two problems at once. Protection now, savings later, all in a single monthly bill. It sounds efficient, which is exactly why it's persuasive. Running the actual numbers later, what the same premium difference would have grown into inside an ordinary index fund over 20 years, tends to be the moment people quietly stop recommending the policy to their friends. Number 7. Carrying a credit card balance as a normal part of life. Nearly 3/4 of the millionaires in the national study said they had never carried a credit card balance in their entire lives. Not paid it off eventually, never carried one at all. The purchases they made stayed inside what they could pay for that month, every month, which meant none of their money was ever quietly rerouted into interest before it had a chance to grow into something else. It isn't that the thought never crossed their minds. A big purchase shows up, the card covers it instantly, and paying it down over the next couple months feels perfectly reasonable in the moment it's swiped. The habit that actually shows up in the data is smaller and less dramatic than willpower. The purchase either waits until the money for it already exists, or it doesn't happen. No card ever gets the chance to quietly become a second, interest-bearing version of the same purchase. Number 8. A hot stock tip, or a big bet on a single company. When researchers asked millionaires what actually built their net worth, not one of them listed single stock investing as a major factor. It didn't even crack the top 3 reasons people gave for their financial success. 3 out of 4 credited plain, unglamorous, regular investing over a long stretch of time instead. The version of getting rich that involves one genius trade doesn't show up in the data. The version that involves decades of unremarkable consistency does. A coworker corners you by the coffee machine with a stock he's putting real money into. Voice lowered like he's handing over something valuable. There's a specific thrill to being early on something, to knowing a name before it's on the news. The data doesn't say this never works for anyone. It says that when you ask people who actually reach the number, this isn't the story most of them tell. The boring answer, invest steadily and leave it alone for a few decades, just doesn't make for a good story by the coffee machine. Number 9, and this one is almost funny once you notice it. A lottery ticket, bought with any real hope attached to it. The same research is blunt about this one. The study specifically notes that lottery winnings weren't how these people got their money. No lottery tickets, no inheritance, no 6-figure salary required. It's a strange thing to see spelled out so directly, because the lottery is sold almost as a wealth-building shortcut, and the actual data on how people become millionaires quietly contradicts that pitch every single time. The gas station line moves slow enough on a Friday night that the numbered tickets behind the counter start looking less like a joke and more like a plan. Somebody 2 spots ahead buys $20 worth and describes in real detail exactly what the winnings would go toward. Nobody in that line is thinking about the study. That's not really what the ticket is being sold on. Number 10. A house priced far beyond what the income at the time could comfortably support. Long-running research on self-made wealth found that when these households bought their first home, the purchase price was, on average, less than 1.5 times their annual household income. And most kept their mortgage well under a third of the home's value going forward. The vast majority of millionaires studied lived in homes worth under $1 million in ordinary neighborhoods, often for 20 years or more. The house wasn't the flex, not overextending for the house was. A real estate agent shows a house that stretches the budget just a little, reasoning that the income will grow into it eventually, the way everyone's income is supposed to. Standing in a kitchen with better counters than the current one, it's easy to start narrating a future version of yourself who easily affords this. The people in the actual data mostly didn't bet on that future version showing up on schedule. They bought the house their present income could actually carry and let the future income, whenever it arrived, go somewhere other than a bigger mortgage payment. Number 11. Buying without a plan already in place. 85% of the millionaires in the national study used a grocery list in some form before they shopped, and the vast majority said they use coupons at least some of the time. It sounds almost too ordinary to matter, but a list is a small, boring commitment made before the emotional pull of a store aisle has any chance to work on you. It's not about the dollars saved on groceries specifically. It's the same instinct, applied everywhere. Decide what you're buying before you're standing in front of it. Walk into the same grocery store with a list and without one, and it's a different trip entirely. Without a list, the end cap display and the smell from the bakery section are making half the decisions. With one, the store mostly just becomes a place to retrieve items that were already decided on somewhere else, at a kitchen table with a clearer head than the one standing in the cereal aisle at 6:30 on a hungry Tuesday. Here's the thread underneath every one of these. None of them are really about the specific item: the car, the warranty, the lottery ticket, the house. They're about the same underlying question, asked 11 different ways. Does this purchase come from a decision made in advance, or from a feeling that showed up in the moment? The people in these studies weren't unusually disciplined in some superhuman way. They just consistently let the first version win. It's worth saying plainly what this isn't. It isn't a claim that anyone who buys a new car or leases a vehicle is doing something wrong, or that a single splurge derails a financial life. Most of these millionaires weren't extreme about it either. 94% living on less than they make still leaves plenty of room for a nice dinner or a vacation. What the research actually shows is a pattern of avoiding purchases where the cost is quietly larger than it looks and the benefit is mostly emotional. That's a very different thing from never spending money at all. None of these 11 things on their own would make or break someone's finances in a single year. A timeshare here, a leased luxury car there. Any one of them is survivable. The pattern is what compounds. Every one of these purchases either protects money that would otherwise have decades to grow, or quietly drains money that would have. Skip enough of them consistently for long enough, and the math does something that no single decision ever could on its own. If this is the kind of thing you think about, stick around. That's basically what this channel is. And before you go, which one of these 11 surprised you the most? Tell me in the comments. I read every one.